Welcome to another episode of Living Whole, Walking Strong. Today we're going to talk about the importance of reading labels. Now, navigating the aisles of your local grocery store can feel like a daunting task, especially when faced with the confusing array of nutrition labels plastered on every product. If you're someone who wants to make healthier choices but struggles to understand what those labels actually mean, you're not alone. And this podcast, this episode, aims to demystify the world of nutritional labels, offering practical tips and invaluable insights tailored for people needing help with nutrition. And hopefully by the end of this, you will be armed with knowledge that you need to go into the grocery store and make the best decisions that you possibly can when you're buying your food and consuming it. So there are four main labels or things to look for when you're looking at a package. There is the agricultural claim, there's the nutritional facts label, there's the ingredients list label, and there's the nutrition claim. Now, the nutrition facts label lists the macro and micronutrients that make up the food per serving. These are usually listed in grams and milligrams, and also list the percentage of daily value for a 2,000 calorie diet. One thing to keep a close eye on is the serving size and servings per container, which is where a lot of people kind of get messed up on this. Oftentimes we look at the nutrition list and think it's okay, but in fact, that small item of food may actually consist of several servings of said ingredient, and you're not paying attention to that because you're not paying attention to the amount of servings. And so if there are 20 grams of added sugar listed, but there are 4 servings for the package, then if you eat the whole package, you are actually eating 80 grams of added sugar. The recommended daily allowance, the RDA, is 30 grams, which is still pretty high. One 12-ounce can of Coca-Cola is 39 grams of sugar per serving, which is just one can. So one can of soda is already more than the already inflated RDA for added sugar. Too much added sugar can cause visceral fat, which is fat around the organs, which causes cardiovascular issues, diabetes, lots of different health issues whenever you are adding too much added sugar to your diet. In 2021 was the last year that partially hydrogenated oils, they were used as a preservative, were allowed in processed foods in the United States, but there are still some things that you might find out there that still have this in it. This was the main culprit in increased trans fat in processed foods, and has been deemed unsafe for humans. And keep in mind that it's found naturally in dairy and meat, and that is deemed safe for humans. So with that aside, the RDA is recommended at 2.2 grams, just 2.2 grams, not very much. According to the FDA, if a product has less than, and here's the thing that is tricky, this is why it's important to understand how to read these labels. But the FDA, for this particular ingredient, says that if a product has less than 0.5 grams of trans fat, then it can be labeled as having 0 grams of trans fat. So let's just say you eat 2 servings of something that states it has 0 grams of trans fat. Well, with that particular labeling guideline, you could, in essence, actually be consuming 1 gram of trans fat in one sitting when both of the labels actually stated that you had 0 grams of trans fat. So it's very important to understand what these labels read and how they read and why they read what they read. Too much trans fat causes heart disease. So that's the nutritional facts label. So make sure that you are looking at not only the grams, the milligrams, and the percentages, but you're looking at the serving size compared to the amount of servings per container. The ingredients list label. This ingredients list label lists all of the ingredients in the product. By law, they must be listed in decreasing order of prevalence, which means the first ingredient represents the largest amount, so on and so forth as it goes down. In the United States, they must be listed by their common name so consumers can recognize what the ingredients are. Although many are not necessarily common to the average person, and there is a lot of weaseling that happens with the naming of some of this stuff. So it does make it where the consumer actually doesn't really know what some of these things are. So it's very important to just do a lot of research. Oftentimes, especially with processed foods, there may be multiple types of sugar listed, such as cane sugar, corn sugar, and also fruit concentrate, all in the same product. And they might be listed as ingredient 1, 2, and 6. But the reality is there's still 3 different things of added sugar. But you would only know that if you read the ingredients list. Beware of products with multiple types of sugar in them, especially if they are added sugar. Preservatives are usually in names that you would not recognize, such as butylated hydroxyanisole, which I can't even say it right, which is BHA. And there's BHT, there's sodium benzoate, sodium nitrate, nitrites. Preservative MSG, which is monosodium glutamate, goes by several names: monosodium salt, monohydrate, monosodium glutamate monohydrate, and sodium glutamate monohydrate. And MSG is definitely, all these right here, these preservatives are not ones that you want to have in your body. So you need to read the ingredients list so that you can see if the product that you're buying or potentially buying has these particular ingredients in them. So the third different label or thing to look for on the box is the nutrition claim. These are terms used to signify if a product is a good source of an ingredient or low in a certain nutrient. There's strict guidelines for these. Some of these claims would be low fat, fat-free, gluten-free, calorie-free, etc. For example, low calorie must contain 40 calories or less. Fat-free contains less than half a gram of total fat per serving. Now, this one is another one of those major weasel areas. You may see low fat on the product label and think that it's good. It's a good product. But if you also look on the nutrition label, because you got to look at all of these different labels. But if you look at the nutrition label, more than likely you'll find that it has an inflated amount of sugars. So they took out the fat, but then they added the sugars in order to say that it was low fat. So that's another reason why it's important to read labels on the product. You may see on a cereal logo stating that it is heart healthy, but that is only because of its fat and cholesterol levels listed on the nutrition facts label. So it is a weasel way to persuade someone to think that the cereal is completely healthy for you, when in fact it is packed full of added sugar, which will do you even more harm. Because really, most of these products, these products that are processed, these processed products, many of them you would more consider them more like a dessert. They're claimed as being a healthy food, but they're actually more of a dessert because of the amount of sugar in them. So keep that in mind. The fourth one to look at and to look for is what are the agricultural claims being made on this particular product. These are claims such as natural, non-GMO, organic, cage-free. If you don't know the ins and outs of these terms, then you'll be bamboozled pretty easily. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about that. 100% organic means the product contains only organic ingredients. Organic means the product contains at least 95% organic ingredients. Made with organic ingredients means the product must contain at least 70% organic ingredients and still be non-GMO. Be careful here because it may not list this as a plaque on the front label, but may have 100% organic or organic in regards to the individual ingredients listed, which does not make the whole product organic. So just because it has one or two items in it that are organic, it does not mean the whole product is organic. So keep that in mind. Terms used for livestock and poultry are cage-free, pasture-raised, range-free, grass-fed, natural, grass-fed, grass-finished, wild-caught, or farm-raised. Cage-free means they had access to roam outside, but no guarantee that they actually did. Free range means that they were given access to roam outside at least 51% of their life. Pasture raised means they spent time in pasture outdoors for a period of time, but no indication of how long, no FDA regulation on this. Grass-fed means the main source of the livestock diet was grass. This does not mean that it cannot be supplemented with grain or corn when finished in order to fatten up. Grass-fed, grass-finished means that the animals only ate grass during its life, and at the end of its life, before slaughter, it also ate grass. Natural means no artificial ingredients or dyes and is watched by the USDA. This term is also used in the ingredients list of processed foods, which is governed by the FDA, but there's no real true definition by the FDA for natural. The assumed meaning is not artificial, but there's no real definition. Wild caught means it was caught in the wild, and farmed raised means it was raised in a controlled environment, which deals with fish, seafood, etc. One thing to keep in mind is that the nutritional profile of fish, seafood that was raised or it was caught, that is wild caught, is actually, it has a higher, more nutritious profile than those that are just farm raised. A lot of times farm raised has a lot of extra bad fats and random nutrients that you would not normally find within nature. And so that's why it's very important to make sure that you're getting wild caught, and most oftentimes wild caught in the Atlantic, because there's usually a lot more mercury in the Pacific than there is in the Atlantic. Certified Humane has more restrictions. You can find more information on that with the certifiedhumane.org website. So in conclusion, reading food labels is an essential skill for anyone looking to maintain a healthy and balanced diet. By understanding the nutritional information, the ingredients, the serving sizes, and avoiding marketing gimmicks, which we've talked about a few of them today, we can make informed decisions about our nutrition. The art of reading labels is very important. But at the end of the day, make the best choices you can for yourself and your family. And hopefully, what we talked about today can be a guide, but not a dictate. Keep in mind, every time that we have a podcast, in the show notes, we will have all of our sources. And so until next time, thank you for joining us for this podcast, the Living Whole, Walking Strong podcast. Please subscribe below if you enjoyed the podcast, and write a comment. Share this with your friends and family, those who need to understand a little bit more about reading their labels, about health, and anyone who is just interested or in need of living whole and walking strong. So until next time.